Hello and welcome back to Mark My Words Football Podcast with Rob and Scott. And Scott is away on business this week, so it'll just be me recapping Week 6 action in the NFL and looking ahead to Week 7. And crazy week in the NFL yet again. I think more upsets this week than any of the previous weeks. At least it seemed that way. Just some insane final scores here. Among the weird and wacky ones were the Falcons upsetting the 49ers, the Steelers upsetting the Buccaneers, the Patriots upsetting the Browns, and of course the Jets upsetting the Packers, which is the game that I want to get into the most. So I'll get into that right away because this was an absolute collapse by the Green Bay Packers, an absolute dumpster fire in every stretch of the word. So before we get into the ins and outs of it, the box score has Zach Wilson only throwing it 18 times, completing 10 of 18 for 110 yards. No turnovers, no touchdowns. Breece Hall taking the main load of the Jets on the ground, carrying 20 times for 116 yards and a touchdown. Then you had Michael Carter also supporting with 6 carries and 41 yards. And Braxton Berrios with an end-around carry for 20 yards and a touchdown. On the receiving side, again, not much going for the Jets passing game in this game. They didn't really need it. Corey Davis leading the way with 2 catches for 52 yards. On the Packers side of things, you had Aaron Rodgers going 26 for 41 for 246 yards and a TD. Not much going on the ground, infuriatingly, with A.J. Dillon 10 for 41 and Aaron Jones only 9 for 19. Robert Tonyan having a great game, leading the way with 10 catches and 90 yards, followed by Allen Lazard with 4 catches for 76 yards. Also saw some Amari Rodgers there in the receiving game, having a catch for 14 yards. So a bit of a new thing there. I guess they're just trying anything they could possibly try to bring any sort of spark to the offense, but of course, it really didn't work. So, I should have saw this game coming here. So this is the first time under Matt LaFleur that the Packers have lost 2 games in a row in the regular season. So, that doesn't bode well. So watching this game, I knew it was going to be one of those games, which is, one of those games where the Packers just look lifeless on offense. They aren't doing what's right in front of them. And I feel like they have been messing around with this so far this year, is your strongest element, the strongest component to your offense is running the football with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. This is arguably the best backfield in the NFL. Why aren't you using these players to be the centerpiece of your offense? And just seeing the lack of usage that these 2 backs get is infuriating, especially Aaron Jones, who is so dynamic, and not only in the running game but in the passing game as well. So seeing that is just so infuriating to me, how we're just not playing to our strengths in that regard. So a lot of people are calling panic button on the Packers. They're a bad team. Their season is over. Aaron Rodgers is washed. Matt LaFleur can't coach. So, just want to clear some things up here. Aaron Rodgers is not washed. Matt LaFleur can coach. And the Packers are still a very talented team. It's just there's some things that need to be patched up and need to be addressed right now. First is the offensive line. All year they've looked really shaky, which is very uncharacteristic of the Packers. And I think that is what's affecting Aaron Rodgers looking as he has been so far. They need to change something there. They need to bring some guys up from the practice squad, maybe switch it around. I don't like Elton Jenkins on the outside. I think he needs to move back to the guard position. But whatever you got to do there, make the necessary changes, because whatever you got right now is not working. That's the main issue I see on offense, besides Matt LaFleur not going with the run game. And after these games, he's saying in his press conferences, we got to get him the ball more. You control that. You're the head coach. You're the one who makes the play calls. Unless Aaron Rodgers is changing all these plays at the line of scrimmage, then that's on you, not getting Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the ball. It's so infuriating how they seemingly have no answer to controversy. Like, they have no halftime adjustments. They cannot make changes on the fly during a game. If something throws them off their game plan, then they're like a deer in the headlights. They cannot come back. I cannot see this team coming back from any deficit larger than like 2 scores. I just can't see it happening this year so far. And there's still a lot of time to make changes, but it has looked awful. So I think the offensive line, you really need to fix that now. Obviously the receivers need to play better. It's not the problem, but it is a problem. Aaron Rodgers is not playing well. I'm not going to just totally skim over him. He's got to play better, but I think he will. And Matt LaFleur has got to do a better job of adjusting his game plan in game and kind of seeing what is going on in the game. We all in this day and age of analytics, we tend to get caught up in what the numbers say, and you tend to game plan the game for a whole week before the game actually happens. You have this whole plan. Sometimes the best thing to do is kind of throw that out the window and go with what has been working, or go off of what hasn't been working. And I just feel like the Packers have not been able to do that. And this is sort of the thing that's been the reoccurring issue these last few years, which I believe has led to them not being able to get over the hump, is these little adjustments and just these little tweaks that you need to see from a championship team have not been there. So I think while Matt LaFleur has done a great job for the most part, he's been an offensive mastermind, an absolute genius, and has led the team to a lot of success. If he wants to take the next step as a coach, and if he wants this team to take the next step, he's going to need to step it up, because this team is not as talented as they were a couple of years ago, without question. So I think that if we want to see improvement from the Packers, we need Matt LaFleur to step up and start taking responsibility and making some in-game adjustments. That would be quite nice. But I don't think it's time to panic really too much for Green Bay. All that being said, I still think there's a lot of time to figure things out. And yeah, their schedule gets tougher, but maybe not as tough as I originally thought at the beginning of the year. So there definitely is time. Now we go on to the Buffalo Bills, who are pretty much on the opposite end of this. The Bills, inside and out, have been the most impressive team to me so far. Really not coming as much of a surprise. So they beat Kansas City last week in Kansas City. Just up and out beat them. Josh Allen, 27 for 40 yards, 329 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he is hurdling guys. He's stiff-arming. He's an absolute monster. Man, it's incredible. At some point, you just got to shake your head. Just be like, this is just unstoppable. And it doesn't really matter what we do. Eventually, he's going to break one off like that. Devin Singletary, really liking what he's been doing lately. 17 carries, 85 yards on 5 yards per carry. That last game, Stephon Diggs having yet another monster game. 10 catches, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Gabe Davis also getting involved as well. Patrick Mahomes had a pretty good game. 25 for 40, 338, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Of course, the last interception sealing the deal for Buffalo. Not much going on for the run game for Kansas City. That's been their biggest problem this year, I think. But their receivers are looking good, especially Smith-Schuster, who had a career game with 5 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. So the Bills have a bye this week. They don't need it because they're relatively healthy except for the secondary. Although pretty much it's just White now, I believe. They look really, really good. So hopefully this bye doesn't mess with their psyche. Although I think they should be fine. So in contrast to the Packers and their coaching, I think the Bills maybe have one of the best halftime adjustment game plans ever. Like, they are not really fazed by anything. Put them in Los Angeles, put them on a short week, fly into London. I think this team is really ready for anything that's going to be thrown their way, which is important. And the running game is vital to the Bills team. I know a lot of people today kind of discredit the run game, say it doesn't really matter all that much to a team's success, but I really, really disagree on that, especially during the playoffs and when the throwing conditions are rough. Snow, wind, rain. Running is a lot. That's when you turn to your run game. And just to kind of prove that, you remember that New England Patriots game that the Bills had last year, I believe. The Patriots threw the ball like 3 times, right? And the throws weren't even successful. They ran the ball like every single play, and they ended up winning that game. Now, nobody in their right mind thought that the Patriots were better. Everyone knew Buffalo was a better team. But New England won. Why? Because they ran the ball, and Buffalo could not. So when it gets time to playoffs, running the balls is a very important part of the game. It still is. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't see these top running backs getting paid so much. So I think it's really important that they start establishing that. And Singletary has really impressed the last couple weeks, getting a bit of more load share. And I think that's just another reason why Buffalo is the best team in the league right now. Some interesting games last week. Falcons beating the Niners. I had that as kind of my upset of the week type of deal. The Steelers stunning the Buccaneers. What is going on there with Tampa Bay? In Green Bay and Tampa Bay, both at 3-3 right now. There seems to be a bit more panic over Green Bay, but Tampa Bay has not been all that great so far. You look at their the games that they won. They beat Dallas in week 1, but Dak got hurt. They beat the Saints in week 2, and they beat a Falcons team at home. Their losses have come against the Packers, the Chiefs, and now the Steelers. They got blown out. Well, they really did get blown out against Kansas City. 41-31 does not reflect how that game went. So I would be equally concerned with Tampa Bay as I would with Green Bay. So, that's no small thing, the Steelers winning. Steelers are just a clutch team, though. With Mike Tomlin, it's never an easy game. They're kind of like the Patriots in that regard, who, by the way, look pretty darn good. Pretty surprised by that, considering no real offensive coordinator. But yeah, I think the Buccaneers definitely need to have a bit of urgency as well as the Packers if they want to be contenders. And look, NFC is not as tough as the AFC, so both of these teams could win the 1 seed. Besides Philly, but the Packers, Bucks could be number 2 and 3 seed in the NFC, right? Even if they get to like 12-5 or 11-6, that's just how it kind of goes. I'm still not trusting the Giants to be real contenders in the playoffs. All right, now we got the Thursday night game, and this is the New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals. So I have the Arizona Cardinals winning this game. They have a huge relief in the wide receiving game, coming back DeAndre Hopkins from suspension. So that should be just a huge lift. It made a world of a difference last year, and it's looking like it's going to make a world of a difference this time. So I really like how the Saints have been playing, though, especially with Andy Dalton. They might want to think about starting him as the permanent starter. He's been pretty good. Jameis Winston, he's questionable. This is questionable. I doubt that he would play this week just because short week. Andy Dalton has been playing fine. So I do think the Cardinals will prevail, and Scott also has the Cardinals winning. I think we both think that just the Cardinals are more talented overall. And they got Robbie Anderson, although Marquise Brown is out for a little while. Robbie Anderson, the return of DeAndre Hopkins should propel this Cardinals team over the Saints. Then we have the Falcons and the Bengals. Falcons prevailing over the 49ers last week. The Bengals squeaking out a close one over the Saints. And we both have Cincinnati coming out on top this week. Cincinnati's starting to pick up, right? I mentioned teams that should be picking it up by now aren't. Well, the Bengals actually kind of are picking it up, at least on the offensive side. They're looking more like the Bengals that we saw from last year. So I think they should get a tight. It should be a tight game because the Falcons put up a fight, but I think the Bengals will prevail. Then we got the Lions and the Cowboys, and oh wow, okay, I did pick the Lions, intending for this to be kind of an upset steal win. However, Scott picked the Lions as well. But in all honesty, I do think the Lions will give the Cowboys a good fight coming off a bye week. Hopefully that defense has improved. But either way, I think they should get the job done because Dak is coming back. He's taken over, coming back from a thumb injury. So these injuries take a little bit of time to heal, and it just, for a while, it just doesn't feel right. You had Russell Wilson out like 6 weeks last year. He came back, and he said he came back too soon. And he obviously didn't play very well after that. So I think the Cowboys are just rushing it. They don't really need to because Cooper Rush has been fine. But I think that'll probably, unfortunately, lead to them losing. And this Lions team, which was really roaring, pun intended, with on the offensive side, being the highest scoring team throughout like 4 weeks, I think they're going to recover that against the Cowboys. Then you got the Indianapolis Colts versus the Tennessee Titans, and we both have the Colts here. So the Colts are looking like they have some life in them. They were like the worst offense I've ever seen throughout 5 weeks. But Matt Ryan picking it up, getting me a clutch win in fantasy this week. And against the Titans coming off a bye, I still don't really like this Titans team too much. I think they could be a spoiler to a team that wants to get in the playoffs. But besides that, I don't really see them making much noise in the NFL. So, it's quick turnaround. These teams faced in week 3. I think the Colts will get their number this time. Then you got the Green Bay Packers visiting the Washington Commanders. We both have Green Bay winning this game. I really thought about this, but Carson Wentz is not playing, so it's Taylor Heineke. So, if Packers lose this game, then all hell is going to break loose, and rightfully so. They need this game. Probably they need this win more than any team in the NFL right now, besides the Raiders. It has just looked bad in Green Bay, and if they can't beat Washington and their backs are against the wall, this season might be a wash. This might be a wash. Then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Carolina Panthers, and me and Scott, we both have Tampa Bay getting a get-right win against Carolina. So Carolina, interim head coach, interim quarterback, P.J. Walker taking over for Baker. They just lost Robbie Anderson, so this is officially a tank year for the Panthers. They're getting the number 1 pick, without a doubt. Tampa Bay just steamrolls them. New York Giants and then Jacksonville Jaguars. Giants 5-1, and they could easily be 7-1 after these next 2 weeks. I think they'll get the job done in Jacksonville here. Jacksonville, a young, exciting team, but they definitely have a lot of growth to be had. So I think the Giants they got their identity established a little bit more than Jacksonville. Scott does have the Jaguars prevailing in this game. So I know he has liked what he's seen from Jacksonville so far. So have I. So I think he's a little bit higher on them than I am. So not a bad pick. I considered that for a little while, but I do think the Giants they're kind of clutch. So I don't see this being a blowout by any stretch. It should be a close game, and we'll see how it goes. It should be a good one, though. Then we got a divisional battle between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns trying to keep the ship afloat without Deshaun Watson. What will their situation be when he gets back? We don't know, but they really can't afford to lose too many games here, sitting at 2-4. Unfortunately, I do think they're going to meet a very angry Ravens team that has just 3 weeks in a row blown a double-digit lead. I think the Ravens will take care of business against Cleveland this week, and so does Scott. Then we have the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos. Broncos defense looking amazing. However, the offense is looking equally as bad. For that reason, I will pick the New York Jets to prevail in this game. A bit of an upset pick, I initially, when going through these picks, I picked Denver. However, this season is crazy. I'm just trying to think of how much crazier can it get. I want the chaos. I want I want this to be the most chaotic year ever. So I will pick the Jets here. Denver's offense looks anemic. Scott does have the Denver Broncos prevailing over the Jets in this game, so we're starting to differentiate a little bit. Then we got the Houston Texans and Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders need this game. They're at 1-4, and coming off, I think they were on a bye last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, both teams were on a bye last week, so should be well rested and ready to go. So may the best team win. I think that is the Raiders, and Scott also has the Raiders in this game. Then we got the 4:25 window between the Seahawks and the Chargers. We both have the Chargers here. Like I said, like we both kind of said, the Geno Smith magic will probably fade. It will probably wear off in a couple weeks, and kind of right on cue, it seems to be wearing off. Seahawks at 3-3, still looking pretty good, but they're an under-talented team, and I mean, there's really not much hope for them, at least for this year. But I mean, Geno Smith playing well is a plus, but they really don't have much actual hope. So I think the Chargers are a much better team, a team that's looking to make a playoff run. And there seems to be a little bit of hesitation when people talk about the Chargers this year. And, they haven't come out firing on all cylinders, but I do think they are still really good contenders. So I think they're a really good bet. People are low on them now. So I think if you want to play those odds, the Chargers would be a good bet, because I still think they're as good a team as anyone in the AFC when they are firing on all cylinders. And I think it's just a matter of time before they find that gas pedal and step on it, because they have a lot of weapons. Keenan Allen coming back should give them a boost. I really like this Chargers team, so I think they get the job done quite easily against Seattle. Then we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Chiefs coming off a loss to the Bills, Niners coming off a loss to the Falcons. And me and Scott both have Kansas City beating San Francisco. I really think that Kansas City is still the second best team in the league. Really great game against Buffalo. Whoever won that game, it really wasn't going to change my opinion on either of the two teams, because both of them are so good. So I think Kansas City should handle the 49ers in this game. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers and Miami Dolphins. Scott has the Dolphins prevailing here, and so do I, after a lot of debate, actually, because I could see this being a game that Pittsburgh sneaks in a win. So the Steelers, I think, are experts at stealing games, kind of like the Patriots are, except not quite as good. But the Dolphins are getting Tua back, it looks like, for this week. So they need that. I think they will. Their offense is just too much for the Steelers right now. Steelers' offensive line looking bad. Najee Harris, talented running back, but hasn't been able to get anything going. Yeah, I'm picking the Dolphins to beat a Steelers team that's kind of in shambles. And then the final game of the week, we got the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots on Monday night. What a thriller between two teams that we all want to see every week. I think I'm going to see New England take the victory here with Bailey Zappi. So Mac Jones, questionable for this week, but I highly doubt he's going to play with kind of his injury. It's limited practice. I don't think he'll play this week. Either way, I'm picking the Patriots, but Bailey Zappi has been pretty impressive so far. And the Patriots, this could be a blowout, boys. This could be a blowout. Line is 7.5 right now for the Patriots. I would bet the Patriots against the spread in this game. All right, so Scott is not here. However, we do have his parlay for the week. This week he is banking on the Indianapolis Colts against the Tennessee Titans. He's betting on the Jaguars against the Giants and the Broncos against the Jets. So there you have it. Scott's parlay, the Colts to win, the Jaguars to win, and the Broncos to win straight up. Colts beat the Titans, Jaguars beat the Giants, and Broncos beat the Jets is Scott's parlay of the week. So some pretty close picks. Again, all we disagree on 2 out of the 3 here, but the games that he picked that I did not pick, I was really thinking about them. So yeah, I think once again a pretty solid parlay here, 3-leg parlay, and very good odds on these. If you bet like $10, you're gonna come out with like $58. So yes, very good odds. I would bet that today, even having bet against the other 2 teams. That's really, you can't beat those odds, man. That's like almost 6 times 6. That's crazy, and that could easily happen. So, I mean, New York team's giving a lot of people headaches thus far. And I think that should wrap it up. Hopefully my Packers pull out a win here. Bills are on bye, so I'm going to be locked in on the Packers game, and I'm going to be locked in on the Browns game against the Ravens. I want to talk about the Browns for just a second before we wrap this up. So Browns have an interesting conundrum here, and they sit at 2-4. They could easily be 5-1. They could easily be 6-0. So they beat the Panthers right week 1 by 2 points. They lose to the Jets by 1 point in one of the worst meltdowns ever. Right? They beat the Steelers. They lose to the Falcons. Another close heartbreaker. They barely lose to the Chargers. Then they do get blown out by the Patriots. So their record could be a lot better than what it is. And now they have a very hard schedule coming up. They run the gauntlet here, as they got the Ravens, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Buccaneers. They could find themselves at 2-9 before Watson comes back to face the Texans. And that would be a shame, because I think they're real contenders and a fun watch every week. But they really need to steal a couple games here. I think they could steal the Bengals game. I think they could steal the Dolphins game. And the Buccaneers aren't looking as tough of a challenge as we've seen. But that would be an interesting to watch. So I'm going to be glued to that Browns game and the Packers game this week. So it should be a great week. And the only thing I know for sure about the NFL this year is that I know nothing. Right? All these picks that I've picked this week, they could all be wrong, and I really wouldn't be surprised. That's just how it's gone so far. So, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you liked it, feel free to follow us, and have a great week of football. We'll see you on the other side. This is Mark My Words with Rob and Scott, and we are tuning out.